Hello, you are listening to the Out of School Time podcast, where we discuss the value of out of school time programs in the lives of children, youth, families, and the communities they serve. In each episode, we will interview experts in the out of school time field and discuss the various elements of quality out of school time programs. Now, here is your host, Edward Franklin.
All right, well, welcome to the Out of School Time podcast, Miss Gina Warner, Mrs. Gina Warner, Madam President of the National Afterschool Association. Thanks so much for your time, for being with us on today. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. People should know that you and I have an email friendship. You're often reaching out to me with great encouragement, and particularly over this last year. So it's, I'm really happy to be here with you. Well, we can see each other, and our listeners can only hear us, but happy to be here and happy to talk about the work that we both care about and we're doing together.
Yes. I told one of my teammates is that I met you years ago at the New York conference, and I told my COO that I kind of stalked you around the celery table, celery and broccoli table. I was like, "Ooh, there she is. Let me go talk to
that
her."
New York conference was so fun. I know. I was looking at some paperwork for it earlier. It's like, oh my gosh, we had so much fun. We will never probably be, if you remember the opening night, remember how close we were in that room? We were so tight. We'll never be that close to people again, probably, but it was good times.
Yes. Well, speaking of the conference, what are some of the exciting things we have coming up for next year in Las Vegas?
Oh my gosh. Well, drum roll, because the registration opens tomorrow. So our timing couldn't be better for us to be talking today. So yes, number one, we're going to be in Las Vegas. Super exciting. Our theme, let's see if I can get it together. It has the words unity, community, and opportunity, right? So unity is a thread running through all those, because we started to think about what is it that our field really wants and needs right now. And it's really to be back together. And that's, as wonderful as all of our workshops are, as great as our Learning Expo is, as inspiring as our keynote speakers are, time and time again, what attendees tell us is, I just love being with my people. I love being with people who might look different from me, live in different parts of the country, but do the same kind of work I do every day. They understand what my challenges are, want to hear what my successes are, and they're just my people. And so the idea that we can bring everyone back together after 3 years is just so exciting. And the fact that we're doing it in Las Vegas, that just adds to the glamour and excitement of it.
Yes. Well, I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to April. Right, 2022. March 2022.
20th through the 23rd, 2022.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. We'll make sure we put that on the podcast information. But
meet me at the celery and broccoli table.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I might have to take you over to Hell's Kitchen, with my favorite restaurant, and it's right outside Caesar's Palace.
Well, we're going to be in the amazing Caesar's Palace. So there we go.
There you go. So that's going to be fun. So I tell people that they should attend the conference, because it's nothing like being around like-minded individuals, young and old, all diverse, backgrounds. It's very exciting to see our field come together. I tell people that oftentimes we are mostly focused on our tree, or whatever organization we lead or serve in. But this tree is a part of a huge forest of out of school time that we get together annually at the conference. And this is a wonderful time. So I encourage everybody to attend. And I hope that Las Vegas next year will be how many attend normally? About 2,000, 2,500?
Well, the conference you spoke about in New York, we had about 2,300. That was probably our biggest, but around 1,800 to 2,000 people. So we're, I don't know if we'll have that many people this year. Just kind of see what space allows, and we might have to, limit some spaces and things. But just super excited to have the opportunity to come back together. And it's funny you say that about seeing all the people. When I was actually interviewing for this job, so in June, I will have been in this job 10 years. And, I ran a citywide after school intermediary before that, and had a colleague from a city who shall remain nameless, but it's a big city in the Northeast. And we both met up at convention, and we got there kind of late, and we were sitting literally in the back row. And he's like, and he'd never been to NAA before. And he's like, who are all these people? And I was like, I don't know. Like it was, I think both of us, just amazed at you. You see this auditorium full of people and thinking, wow, these are all people who work in after school. These are all people who do the kind of work I do and care about young people in the way that I do. It is really pretty amazing.
Yes. Well, cool beans. So thank you for giving us a little glimpse of the conference and how you became Madam President. But are you going to share what intermediary you led?
Yeah, I led it was called the Partnership for Youth Development, and it was in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I was in that job for 6 years. Took over right after Hurricane Katrina, and was there for 6 years, and then was hired to do, to this job. So had a lot of, understanding of after school programs, particularly in urban communities. Had a lot of experience in post-disaster recovery that I've been able to use in this past year and a half. So it was and I still have so many friends, there. So it's a great place, and people are doing amazing work for young people there.
Oh, cool. I look forward to hearing more about that at some time in the future. Yeah. So, as you mentioned, we are email buddies and conference buddies and all that good stuff. But we also had an opportunity to visit to hear you during the White Riley Peterson Fellowship. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved with that.
Yeah, so I'm gearing up for that again tomorrow. It's been a year since I spoke to your cohort in your class. So the White Riley Peterson Fellowship, these are individuals from around the after school field who are selected, like you were, to take part in this year-long fellowship opportunity. And it's really focused on building up your capacity, these individuals like yourself, to do policy level work. And maybe I know you had a project, so maybe you can talk a little bit about your project, and a chance to network and come together with a lot of other colleagues in the field. And I think it was me, Jody Grant from the After School Alliance. Can't remember who there were Alea Rosario from the California After School Network, Arla Stevens, I think, who at the time was with 4-H, who now is the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters. So it's got a big promotion. What? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So it was a good time for us. And then of course, I think Terry Peterson facilitated it for us. It was, when I looked at the block on my calendar, it was like several hours, but it seemed like it flew by. I hope it did to the people who are listening, because it was a great just kind of discussion about a lot of issues in after school that, like to your point about when we're so focused on our tree, we don't have time to think about or talk about the forest and the bigger issues that impact our work. So it was a good chance to have that discussion with my national level colleagues, and then with those of you who are doing really important policy work in the field.
Okay. Yes, I did have an opportunity to participate and do a project, but it was a little bit challenging.
Last year was a tough year, right? I mean, hopefully when we're all back together more, they'll bring you guys back in person, because I think being on campus at Furman is a good time. It takes place at the Riley Center on Furman's campus in South Carolina, which is a beautiful campus. And really, much like convention, just that time to be together with your colleagues is really special.
Yes. So hopefully they'll grandfather us in something in the future, and we'll have a great time together. You share about what's happening nationally and all that good stuff. What are your thoughts on the current educational situation and how the after-school field can support what's going on with the children and families in our school system?
Yeah, well, everyone, I think when they write the history of education, in the pandemic era, I think after school is going to be an important part of that, because we as a field stepped in when schools and others stepped out. We were there, when programs started shutting down in March of 2020, within days, we had after school programs around this country stepping in to run programs for children of first responders, to do meal deliveries, to do packet deliveries, to really make sure that we continued in our commitment and our service to supporting young people, to supporting their families. And that continued, again, when many schools did not come back in person and we're doing, an hour here of instruction, an hour there, we had after school programs around the country that said, we're going to create these learning hubs, we're going to understand that an hour online, offline, that doesn't work for a working family. That doesn't work for a working family that has many young children. And so we're going to prop up these, some places that were called learning hubs, community center hubs, where children were able to come at 8 in the morning and stay till 6 in the evening. Staff got them online, helped them with their courses, gave them healthy meals, gave them a chance to play and be kids. So, I don't want anyone to forget the great things that after school did when our communities, when our families, when our children needed us the most. So what we're doing now is, I think during that time, we were able to see firsthand the stresses that were put on young people, seeing all these challenges in their own homes, seeing it in their communities, understanding the stress that their families were under. And that just is, now we are in after school programs, not just delivering great learning and play activities to kids. We are really working strong in areas of, trauma-informed services, trauma-informed care, taking what we know about child and youth development and social emotional learning and really supporting many of these children and young people in ways that they need it. Always continuing to work hand in hand with schools. After school has always been and continues to be a great place to expand on what kids are learning in the school day. But really, I think this past year and a half gave us the opportunity to really demonstrate to people the value that we bring in the good work that we bring in supporting children and families.
Oh, wow. Thank you. You must have been doing this for a while.
Yeah. Was that like a sermon? Was that like a
sounded good. Amen.
All right.
Amen. And so to that end, do you think that what we've did in the field over the last year and a half has helped with the professionalization of our field? Because typically, how we're seen, but what do you think?
Yeah. So it's hard to say. I mean, I think definitely we were valued. Again, I think, that parents, principals, people in the formal education space absolutely understood the value that we provided. They needed us in ways that we've been wanting them to need us, but in really extreme ways over the last year or so. And I think, we delivered. And I think that showed us, as the partners that we've always known that we could be. I think, the past year, it was sort of, and I'll go back to some of my post-Katrina experience here. There was a lot of triage happening, as we would say, right? There was a lot of what are the immediate needs? How do we meet those immediate needs? Those environments do not necessarily lend themselves, to in-depth professional development and reflection. However, I do think it provided opportunities for a lot of professionals in our field to expand their knowledge base around trauma-informed care, around mental health first aid, and a lot of those areas in which, they might not have had experience, got firsthand experience and got some depth of learning there. The other note I would say about professionalizing our field, and that's really what we are very much focused on at NAA, is that I also hope that this past year and a half, what happened and the work that we all did is helping us to make the case that we need to invest in our profession. So, we can't keep saying we need more programs for kids, more money for programs for kids, if we're not going to take that money and pay our people higher wages, find ways to pay our people benefits. We are in the same situation that a lot of industries are now. We are seeing extreme staff shortages. We are seeing extreme turnover in ways that we haven't before. We are competing with fast food and retail and a lot of other industries that are able to pay higher wages than we can, when yet we know the work that we do is so important. So, I think there's a groundswell of policy and support. Certainly, I think the federal investments through the American Rescue Plan are giving us the resources that we need. And now I think it's incumbent upon us as a field working with those policymakers to say, we need to make sure some of those resources are dedicated to the people who do the work.
Wow, great. And so to that end, what role do you think research does play and can play in our field? I know that the Journal for Youth Development is the official journal of NAA, and I know you guys promote or publish the After School Today publication. But what role does research play, and what are some of the things that you suggest we research in the near future?
Yeah, when I look at my colleagues who work in the early childhood learning space, like the 0 to 3, 0 to 5 space, I look at them sometimes very enviously, because they have a lot more investments than we have, and a lot of that goes back to key research that was done, I'd say now almost 2 decades ago, on brain development between 0 and 3 years old, and the importance of external stimuli and all of that. And so I want us to be where they are, right? I want us to have that kind of research that makes a connection between a highly qualified after school professional and the developmental advancements of a young person, right? How can we show, and we have some of that. We're around, you have a lot of great research that shows the value of after school, how it helps kids, socially and emotionally and academically, even helps their physical health. Where we have what I think the researchers call a dotted line, like not a straight research on a dotted line, is how much the person, the adult working in that program or the staff in that program, how important their training, their professionalism is to the high quality outcomes for young people. So that's really important to us, that we are, generating research in those areas so we can continue to drive investment, in our profession and the people who do the work. And yes, Journal for Youth Development, peer-reviewed research journal that we partner with the National Association of 4-H Extension Agents. Can't believe I got that whole name right. It's a lot of names. Again, they're very focused also on youth development. So working with some of the key researchers in after school and OST are on that editorial committee to put out these journals, and then source also other research projects that really bridges that gap between research and practice. I think that's so important that practitioners are not only informed by research, we're not just the vessels to hear it, but we are also informing it, what the topics are, allowing, our individuals in our field to influence it and to inform it as well. And you also mentioned After School Today. So that's our NAA magazine. I want to mention both of those because if anyone's listening and they want to contribute, you noted that we had a great contribution from an after school professional in Dallas in our most recent issue. We are always looking for content from our members and from the field. So if you're somebody who has a promising practice you want to highlight or a resource that you want to share, encourage you to reach out to us and connect with us. Could find yourself in either one of those publications or even in our weekly e-newsletter, because again, we are really looking to highlight good stories from practitioners in the field.
Yes, and one of the things I also noted is that the young lady was an ambassador member and was able to get into the publication. I know we're trying to grow our executive membership, but for those who want the ambassador membership initially, there's still opportunity to participate in these publications. So, yeah.
Here's a good little commercial though too. Sorry to interrupt. No. If you sign up to come to convention, you get a membership with that. So that's a 2-for-1 deal right there. So come to convention and get your executive membership. Wrap it all up in one. So yeah.
Yes. You're absolutely right. So I'm excited about that. All right. So one of the other things that we've been talking about, maybe a little on the fun side, but not during COVID, but was the International Learning Exchange. You guys are going all over the world. I think Finland and Rome and some other place.
Ireland, yes.
Ireland.
Scotland, yes.
And you were scheduled to go to Berlin.
We were.
Yeah.
So the International Learning Exchange, we started that, I think in 2014, I want to say. Maybe, 2014, I think. Our first trip was to London. The idea is that we have much to learn from these other countries that are doing amazing work they don't call it after school. We're the only ones who call it after school. They generally call it youth services, youth development, something along those lines. They have a broader definition about it. What can we learn from them? And I would say most of the countries that we pick, not only do they have a robust after school program, they also have a robust professionalization system for people who work in after school. So what can we learn from them? And then they're always interested in, what we can share, what we're doing. So it truly is a learning exchange. We take anywhere between 25 and 35 people in our community. Like you said, go to these amazing places. We also treat it as a bit of a cultural exchange. So yes, we are meeting with our colleagues, having discussions, hearing presentations, but we're also doing amazing tours. We're eating at fantastic restaurants. We're really immersing ourselves in the culture of the community of where we are. And yes, we were all booked and ready and planned to go to Berlin in the summer in June of 2020. I don't know if we'll pull it off in 2022. I'm not going to say it's off the table. We'll just have to see how things go. Potentially back to Berlin, because not only were we going to be partnering with some of the researchers you mentioned at the University of Berlin, we also were going to be having some presentations from one of our corporate advisory board members, Texas Instruments. So it was really kind of a dual benefit there, after school field, and then people, corporations working in the education space. We're also looking at Oslo, Norway. They have an amazing effort around youth sports. So that's something I know that, we have a large portion of our membership is working in that, and they have a very positive, they definitely embrace the positive youth development theory when it comes to youth sports. So that's on the table too. So we're looking at a couple of other options. I'd love to go this June. So again, not saying it might not happen, but definitely in 2023.
Cool. I hope that one day we'll choose a African destination.
Absolutely. I think we can. I think we can. Where were we having some people? Was it Senegal? I hosted a group from South Africa in DC a couple of years ago, and they would love for us to come to South Africa, and I would love to go see them. Because we know them and work with them. Part of it is just how long is the trip? How much does the trip cost? So we have sort of limited ourselves to some European destinations, but South Africa would definitely be one I'd be interested in. There was a push for Jamaica. One of my colleagues at the National League of Cities grew up in Jamaica and so that's on the table. I mean, look, one of the most fun things is like looking at what all the different options and places are. So keep the ideas coming. We've had, people who wants to go to Asia. That's I think that's probably not going to happen right now. Very far, very expensive. We do try to keep this sort of a cost prohibitive, effective opportunity for our members. But it is to your point. People from all over the country come. A group that size, you really get to bond when you're together. So I'll just say a little bit about Scotland, which was the most recent trip that we took. It was really, so Scotland, and you learn a lot about the government, of how the government funds and all. So Scotland is a part of the UK, but they do have their own funding, stream, I'd say. So prior to when we were there, Scotland, after school or youth services in Scotland really was just a parent fee-based program. Parents could pay, and it was, they had a great professionalization system and all that. They had some public subsidy, some sliding scale but it was still pretty much a parent fee-based program. While we were there, they passed their first ever version of what I would call like their version of 21st century community learning centers, where it's making public investments focused in low-income communities and low-income children to give them access to after-school programs. So it's pretty exciting. And the woman who was the head of it came and spoke to us. So it's kind of, and then to wake up the next morning and be in the hotel lobby and see it on the front page of the paper. It was really exciting.
Cool, man. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. Two more questions. One more about professionalization. What is your thoughts on credentialing or credentials in our field?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan. We've done some work. We started at NAA probably about 6 or 8 years ago now. Had some funding from the Noyce Foundation to create a STEM credential. Kind of the evolution of STEM and after school. It's like, it started with people are like, STEM learning is important. We're hearing that from employers, like we need our kids, to have more STEM skills. So more STEM in school. And then we said, you know what, there's not enough time even to have the STEM learning in school. Let's do more STEM learning in after school. So the evolution of STEM came to after school. At first it was, well, STEM is like, that's like content. So we can only have scientists do STEM, or we can only have like science educators do STEM. We're like, whoa, no, like all the concepts that underlie STEM learning, curiosity. I mean, those are fundamental foundational practices of positive youth development, of what we teach kids as part of. So, we think after school, people can and should be, provide STEM learning experiences. So anyway, got funding to do the STEM credential. It's now on our website. Encourage everyone to visit it. What do after school professionals need to know and show to deliver effective STEM learning experiences for young people? And so I think, that can be applied to every other, I think, and I say this as someone who has an undergraduate degree in education, teachers are not the only people who can teach, right? Yes, also law school, right? So I have a lot of like degrees that a lot of things, but I don't think teachers are the only people who can facilitate learning for young people, regardless of what people's undergraduate degrees are, or whether or not they even have undergraduate degrees. So I see credentials as a great way to, again, professionalize our field, to really focus on what people in our field need to know and show, and to make the case that people who work in after school do have the capacity to deliver high quality learning experiences for young people.
So I know NAA has core competencies that after school providers should have. Are you thinking about a national credential for our field?
We go back and forth about that. So let me say one thing about our core competencies. Thank you for mentioning those. We are probably just weeks away from a new and improved edition of our core knowledge and competencies. In fact, they're going to be now called core knowledge skills and competencies. We have just undergone over the last 8 months a whole equity revision of our core knowledge and competencies. We believe that NA, we're very committed to issues of diversity and equity and inclusion. And we believe that practicing in an equitable way is an element of quality. So we said, okay, let's look at all of our competency, our 10 core competency areas, and how can we infuse equitable practices into each of those. So that's wrapping up soon. We'll be excited to share with everyone. To your point, it has a self-assessment. It's a free resource. So we want everyone to use that. The idea of the national credentials. So here's the hard thing about all the credentials is we have to create a system that recognizes them. And whether that, comes with, pay increases or response. I mean, I think that's the other piece of it. So I think that's why we sort of focused on content areas, STEM. I hope, we can do one around literacy, potentially like physical education or something like that. So I would say it's not off the table. Right now, a number of and a lot of those requirements look different from state to state. So a number of our state affiliates do have state credentials. So I think we'd have to look at the value of having a national credential that sat on top of some of those state ones. We don't want to make this onerous, for people in our fields. So all things we're always thinking about.
Yes, well, good deal. And lastly, if you had one thing to say to the direct staff in our field, or the administration of our field, or researchers, or anything from Madam President, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, that's like the 3 different audiences with 3 different things.
Yes, it is.
It's interesting because I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she started working this summer in after school program and is working some on the weekend. So it's really interesting to see it from her perspective, right? And to kind of see her come home, tired at the end of the day. I mean, with good stories to tell and things like that. I think I'm going to choose to speak to the people that are in direct service in this work, that your work matters, that the time and attention that you spend with a young person can be the difference maker in their life. And I don't say this lightly. That can be the smile that they needed that day. That can be the attention. That can be the concern and compassion. And I think that's why I do get emotional when I think about the great work of our field over the last year and a half. And I think about kids that were so isolated and that were so alone. The idea that our field stepped up to be there for them, to show them that people still cared, to let them know that they weren't alone really matters. And so I'd say just keep doing the amazing work that you're doing. Know that that it is appreciated and that is making a difference, not just in the individual child's life. That child can go on to do great things. So all the work that we're doing collectively together is making a difference, in our communities and ultimately, for our country and for our world.
All right. Well, Ms. Gina Warner, thank you so very, 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 very much for your time. I do appreciate you allocating some time to visit with old Ed Franklin on the Out of School Time podcast, and hopefully prayerfully it was informative to our team and our field. And Lord willing, life lasts. I'll talk to you sometime soon
in Las Vegas at the celery and broccoli table.
Vegas, yeah.
I don't know what I was doing there. Usually I'm at the cheese and cracker table, so I don't know. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I really enjoyed it.
Good deal.
All right. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Out of School Time podcast. Please visit us at www.voiceofhope.org. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can email us at info@voiceofhope.org or call us at area code 214-631-7027. Please also give us a rating and review on Apple Podcast. Thank you, and join us again, where there's always time for Out of School Time.